Alright, February 5th, 2023, and I'm doing a review of the movie Knock at the Cabin by M. Night Shyamalan. Spoiler alert. There will be some spoilers in this movie review, so if you haven't seen it already, you should not watch this review. So watch other reviews for other channels, for other movies that you haven't seen. That you have seen and you want to know my thoughts on them. Anyway, so Knock at the Cabin. Yeah, so I started watching M. Night Shyamalan movies back in like '99, a long time ago, and I saw the Bruce Willis M. Night Shyamalan movie, The Sixth Sense. And I think that launched him into superstardom as far as directorial careers were concerned. Yeah, so that was an interesting movie, and I didn't really follow his career that tightly, I guess. Like, I haven't watched a ton of other M. Night Shyamalan movies, but I've watched a few, and I think what I gathered was that from what I've heard in general, they weren't that great. Not all of them were that great, and the movie that came out, I remember subsequent to that I did, the next movie that I did watch is one with Joaquin Phoenix in it. I can't even remember what it was now, but it was in some kind of alternative society. And it seems like M. Night Shyamalan likes making movies about that, but without I don't know. It's okay. So I'll describe what I think about his movies later. But let me talk about Knock at the Cabin. So overall, I thought it was actually a good movie. Of course, it wasn't a perfect movie, and you never expect a perfect movie from a director that has a history of making imperfect movies. But I'll say that I didn't hate it. I kind of liked it. And let me just go over the points that I liked. Okay, so roughly speaking, the story quick synopsis is that there's this couple that goes into a couple with a daughter that I guess goes to the woods, to a cabin in somewhere to visit. I guess just stay the weekend, and the first scene opens up with the daughter of the two husbands collecting crickets for I guess just observing details about them. Might be her own interest in science, or like a science project. I don't know the details behind that, other than she was collecting them for science purposes and she was naming them. And they were in a glass jar, which was prominently featured, which I thought had some kind of significance to that, to kind of what the plot of the movie was. But anyway, without speculating, so this opposing character, who's played by Bautista, the wrestler, who I haven't heard his name in years, but yeah, he's like a champion at YC. He comes by and he just introduces himself to the girl and tries to make friends with her. And she is initially scared, but she seems to warm up to him pretty quickly. And in my opinion, way too unrealistically fast to what a kid, I think, would warm up to a random and very imposing person of that side. I wonder if that was a deliberate choice to show how kind of trusting and pure she was. Maybe. I don't know. So basically what happens is the guy, he tells her that she has to ask her fathers to let the children in, or let his friends in, and his friends are these other three people who have weapons, weird looking weapons that are encroaching on the cabin, and they've been given these visions of what they need to convince the family. I guess I'll get to that in a second. So they come to the cabin and they knock on the door, and sort of politely, the large main character, played by Bautista, Leonard, I think his name was, he asks if he can be let into the house, and that he asked, unfortunately he doesn't want to do this, but he has no choice. Him and his all of his companions don't want this at all, but they have to be here. So basically, the two dads refuse, and they break it. The four people break into the house and break into the cabin, and one of the dads gets a concussion because he's attacked by somebody who's a nurse who doesn't want to attack him, and as soon as she attacks him and he gets into a concussion, she administers aid to him to render him like mentally capable, like mentally conscious, he still has his concussion, but he's at least he's cognizant. So what happens is this family is told that they have to make a choice, that they need to select one of the family members to be sacrificed, and it can't be a self-sacrifice. They have to select one of the family members to be sacrificed, otherwise there will be a plague, or the entire world will be destroyed. And basically, to amp up the intensity of the movie throughout the movie, what happens is that he informs them, that the Bautista character informs the two dads, who are like, at this point, one dad is out of it because of the concussion, but the other dad is pretty clear, and he's angry from he's become an angry person because of his past experiences. He convinces one of the dads to let him he convinces where was I? I always get like screwed up with these movies a little bit. So he convinces one of the dads he needs to convince one of the dads to kill the other dad or something. And if they don't do it, what's going to happen is that or the daughter, she's up on the table. If someone doesn't, then there's going to be a plague, essentially, that will wipe out all of humanity. And one of the way it plays out is that they ask every day, right? And every time they inform them, every time they say no, then they will unleash a plague. So the first no gets a strange behavior, because they both are vehemently no. They're not interested in sacrificing any one of their family members to some random people who just entered in their life, who attacked them and forced them to make this decision. And they think that their lives are on the line at first, but what ends up happening is they notice at this point that any time the first guy, who's like this, you'll find that in a bit, he's this redneckish kind of guy, or whatever. He gets on his knees, and he obviously has some kind of disdain for the dads already, but the other ones don't. But he gets on his knees and he says that he's going to that a part of humanity has been judged, and that the two women strike him with their weapons, and then he is struck finally with the weapon after he's pretty much dead, because each weapon goes into his head. He falls to the ground, and then the final strike occurs to him. Then he has to be, then he's put in the back somewhere. So the two dads are horrified. I guess they're thankful that they themselves aren't killed, but they're also what the F is going on? Why did they do that? And so basically the story goes on like this, and every time one of them dies, the cabin invaders die, they're asked to turn on the television, and they see something hard. So when the first cabin invader died, which is I guess his last name is O'Bannon, but that's a kind of a spoiler, that they turn on the TV and they find out that some tragedy is happening. The first thing they see is this earthquake / massive tsunami is hitting the west coast and pretty much other parts of the coast in the U.S. All of a sudden. So the apocalypse is essentially going on. And and so basically what happens is the other characters progressively, they ask the characters every day. The one dad kind of is vehemently against this idea. It represents some kind of I think anti-religious leaning, or the anti not wanting to believe this nonsense and just like thinking this is some kind of weird suicide cult, and he's trying to figure out how he can escape. The other dad is like he doesn't believe completely, and each subsequent action gives them a no, and he sees that they end up killing their own people, and then putting them in the back. Yeah, each subsequent person says a part of humanity has been judged, and essentially this goes on, and then there's an escape attempt where one of the dads escapes, tries to get the gun from the back seat of his car, shoots one of the attackers, and that still doesn't prevent the sacrifice from going on, where the main attacker, who's as nice as can be, by the way, this one attacker, at least the primary one, is extremely polite. He's trying to calm them down. But under any circumstance, under no circumstance, would people typically believe what's going on. Each of these attackers has to relay some kind of backstory to them about their upbringing and their history, and their family. They have to talk about things in a compassionate manner, so they have to understand that what they're doing is an actual sacrifice, right? Like it's not this is not some game or some weird twisted cult thing. Like this is like every time they get refused, one of them will die, and the world will edge closer to being destroyed by one of the several plagues. And so by the end of the movie, like close to the end, when the one character is left after a escape attack happens, the Bautista character is left. He's basically ready to kill himself, and he says that he's giving the dad some final advice, and he said after he's gone, then they'll only have a few minutes to make a final decision whether they're going to save the world by sacrificing one of them, or the world will truly burn in coming to an end. And so essentially the guy kills himself, and the dads finally decide that one of the dads has been seeing, the one who had the concussion has been seeing a light in the background, and the light essentially has kind of been his guide, and he's finally seen that the light has shown him that the other dad grows up with the daughter, a grown-up version of the daughter, and they're laughing and having a good time, and their life is moving forward. And he gets this vision, and he says that, you know what, I have to be the one to die. And so the angry dad finally reluctantly decides to kill him. He would have been okay being killed himself. He reluctantly decides to kill the other dad, and then then all of a sudden the lightning stops. And then and you get evidence in the end that it wasn't all BS. The planes were crashing. Disease was spreading via like some X9 virus, and I guess also reasoned out that this light was some kind of like maybe God kind of revelations thing, and then also that maybe that these were the four horsemen of the apocalypse, or representing the positive qualities of the four horsemen, which were understanding, health, nurture, and something else, knowledge, I guess, I don't know, but then the four horsemen, the actual horsemen, their signs are pestilence, death, war, and famine, and pestilence, famine, war, and death, the most powerful one. And so death, I guess, is represented by the Bautista character. He's the one who kills himself, essentially, and so yeah, at the end, like you see that all that's like, since the sacrifice was made, which was speculated because they were chosen because they had the purest love of all families, I don't know, something like that. They made the sacrifice for humanity, and they weren't willing. I think at the last minute it happened, and they went to a diner and they got confirmation that yes, that all these events, these catastrophic events which were escalating, stopped after the sacrifice was made. And then pretty much the movie concludes. I don't know, not in a happy way, but in one term, maybe like some kind of hopeful-ish kind of way. So what did I think? Yeah, I mean, I thought it was an interesting film. The cinematography was great. It didn't look extremely high budget, like all the animation, a little bit of CGI for the burning of the cabin, the story itself. I liked it because, like, I do like religious. I'm not like like a very like dogmatically religious person or anything, but I do like religious themes, especially mystical themes, and this was pretty mystical without giving away a lot of what was going on. thing that you were kind of given was that there was a shared vision that caused all these four people, a shared vision of the apocalypse, to try to convince these two random people to stop the apocalypse by sacrificing one of them, which sounds just like an impossible task. But especially given that there were very strict parameters on how to accomplish the mission, what weapons to make to try to, and then what to say to try to convince them. Anyway, like the performances were pretty great. The anger was palpable. I, I felt there was something missing, but at the end of the day, I felt that there was something added for what was missing. So all in all, I'll probably give it like maybe a 3.5 out of 5 stars, 3.5 to 4, 3.75 if I was doing a 5-star thing. And I would love to see. I know M. Night Shyamalan has done sequels before. I don't think he would do a sequel to this necessarily, because the essential conflict is resolved unless you can conceive that there could be another apocalypse scenario. So I've seen also that people have said that M. Night Shyamalan should stay away from the apocalypse when it comes to movies, because this one, some people thought it wasn't the greatest, but overall, I didn't hate it. You should probably go watch it. I try to watch a lot of one movie a week that interests me. So, this is the review for that, and hope you enjoy. I'll see you around.